So, welcome back. This meeting I'm gonna do with my head on because working from home basically is, an excuse of not having to take care of yourself as much as you should, especially when it comes to hair. So I apologize for the hat, but today I want to talk about going into production with the CMDB and the changes. So after working again for BMC for 20 years or so, and mainly focusing on the support organization. I never really had a good understanding of what it takes to go into production. And one of the gripes I actually had at BMC while I was doing support was that uh, the changes that the support organization was asking our customers was kind of unreasonable. In many cases, it takes months to approve something to get into production. So asking somebody to put a patch in is basically a big deal, right? So you can't just ask, hey, we have a patch for this, or you have this problem, but go ahead and put this patch into production and you'll be fine. Okay, so that seems to be kind of a easy way to get out of really owning the process before you release the product. So this is why QA, really quality assurance of something that you're putting out there as a product, should be outstanding, right? You should have people that understand what the product is being used for in production for companies, you know, that you're using your product. So you have I understand that there's timelines where things need to be released, and I guess it's the American way of having quarterly reports and having something to report by the end of the quarter and having a release every quarter. But that doesn't mean that that lack of QA, or not following your QA cycle properly, is for the customer to pay for. It's the company's responsibility to release a good product. So in many cases, I actually had many complaints about being pushy with QA and not having things tested properly. And already I released an upgrade video that shows how, for example, the web service server, the Tomcat server, if it's not up and running properly, then your UDDI updates are not going to happen, and therefore you're going to get a failure on the upgrade. So here, when we go into production, the CMDB, is going to be scrutinized by the peers that we work for, right? And this is something you don't really see in support. In support, you're trying to get a solution out there to a customer. You write a K, and your life ends. You move on to another thing. At the end of the day, you're kind of going to bed with thinking, I've helped many customers today, but you've actually probably added more issues to that customer, because now they have to figure out a way to get into production and defend the change and the reason why the vendor had a failure or some flaw in their product, when you've been the champion of their product, and how come that you didn't discover that before, right? So this is an issue really that keeps recurring. So how should I describe what is going to happen next? And I have to say here that I'm probably not going to be doing any PowerPoint slides, because always in my entire life, I never really liked PowerPoint slides. I do understand that they kind of help with the visualization, but my goal here is more of a listen to this while you go to work, so that you can get your state of mind adjusted, especially now when with the coronavirus, where most of us are working from home. So you have maybe just a few minutes to get into work, and then maybe start answering hard and heavy questions from your peers or your superiors. What's the status, or where is your CMDB project, and so on. So today, we had a meeting about getting things into production. And in this case, it's been something we've been working on for a couple of weeks. This is a small change. So in this small change, we were just able to say, hey, we're going to get this done tonight, and what's the impact out there. So in production, you would have these schedules where you would say, on Wednesday night from 7 to 11, whatever, that's like a good time to put it into production. And if you can get that in, great. If you don't, well, you're going to have to wait for the next cycle. So now you have a list of approvals that you have to go through. So in this case, I'm gonna have to just grease grease the wheels, kind of connect to people, and to see if I can get them to agree to put this make this change in the production. So as it is, I talk about the CMDB. Here I want to talk about something that I think is a good idea to do, and that is to use some automated process of getting a CI that to qualify to a condition. For example, if I wanted to relate one CI to another for whatever reason, like applications and computers, databases, and people and services and whatnot, and I can't get this done by using the CI in that data set because I'm not allowed to make a change in that data set. I think it's a good idea to then create a copy activity that copies the CI to an alternate data set, which you can call something like acme dot follow up with a work order, or something that gives people the meaning of that data set. And in that data set, create a condition that will then be processed by either workflow and AI job. And this workflow will see what that condition is. And of course, since it's in that data set, it already had some reason to be there. So my condition here in this case would be if I find CIs in this data set, I want to create a work order, I want to create an incident, or some change requests. Now, these are a bit complicated things because now you have to create a mapping. So you can create a new work order and associate the CI, this configuration item, to this work order. But then you end up with the CI actually staying in that data set for a while, even if that work order has been completed. So you need to figure out a way of expiring those. And I thought it was a good idea to actually use like a 30-day expiration, where if the CI modified date is older than 30 days, now it could be a combination of the modified or the create date, because normalization or reconciliation, if it runs, you will see that CI being updated by a remedy application service anytime the reconciliation or normalization touches it, right? So if I'm not clear of how old that CI was in there, it may be a good idea to actually use the create date to expire that CI and then delete it from that data set. You can also create a delete rule that says if anything is in this data set, delete it if it was created 30 days ago. Since you have a mechanism that creates automatically work orders based on the data it's in the data set, it kind of makes sense that you would already have that result. A typical work order shouldn't sit there for 30 days, although if 30 days is not short enough, then extend it to 60 days and rules like that. And this would be a separate data set where, or maybe in that same reconciliation job, actually, you would have like a delete activity. In that delete activity, you would say, delete this data after the creation date of that CI is older than 30 days. And the create date doesn't change. The modified date does. And the modified date does change by like I said, the remedy application service user. So you have a pretty good condition, I would say, on how to change or how to maintain data in your CMDB. Now, I'd like to touch on something different here, and that would be the retention of data in BMC asset data set. Now, there's companies that believe, for whatever reason, that the BMC asset is a good repository for data. And even if you deactivate a computer, that computer should still be there forever, right? And so imagine 100 years from now, right? Imagine that this human race will be around 100 years from now, and you will still have that data in the CMDB 100 years from now. So now imagine having somebody go through all that data and cleaning it up. I think that's too much to expect, right? So the data retention should be probably maybe 3 months after the computer has been deactivated, because at that point all your work orders and change requests should have been already processed. Now, I do understand that change request would be associated with the CI, And if you delete the CI, it would disappear. But you can also move that CI actually to like a BMC asset.legacy data set. And it can sit in there even though it's deleted in BMC asset. There's a reference by the reconciliation identity still in that data set, and the provenance of attribute data source list does not need to be looking up anything from the source data sets. Um, that can play havoc on the merge rules, or they're trying to find the source that the CI made it in before. So if it's deleted, it shouldn't be in there, and you can still find it by the reconciliation identity in this BMC asset.legacy data set. So that's one thing. Normalization, on the other hand, is also something that kind of comes up often. So in that case, you can get before your legacy data, right? If you do a comparison of what was normalized a year ago, where you can still look in this bmc.asset.legacy and to see what had been normalized since then, and what wasn't normalized. And that would be by creating trend reports. So if you have a trend report, basically that says, here we have a data set. Like I would recommend creating something like a bmc.product or whatever your company is, acme.company, that product data set where all of your data that's failing normalization is being inserted into. You can then have somebody on a monthly basis or whatever it is by, you can even automate a work order for it. Just go through that data set at that point and see what's still being sent in as not normalized. So your copy activity in this reconciliation would be using qualification where the normalization status is equals failed to normalize, or maybe you have a class that you've just added to be normalized and previously was not applicable for normalization. Well, now that class needs to be normalized, and you don't want to just blindly check to add it to your product catalog, because then you have a nonsensical product catalog that's not really reliable, right? You have to have some sort of a authority that defines this product to be in production, be approved, and find its way into BMC asset. Right? So here now you have all this process kind of documented from having that normalization being done on the CIs. So like if I compare to a report from a year ago, that report is not going to have this normalized data because I still see it in BMC asset legacy, and I would be looking at this data set here to make that comparison. So I know that's a lot of information all at once. Some comments would be nice. There's a chat associated with this video. Feel free to ask me comments, or maybe I do have. So I should probably add some information here. I do have a couple websites out there. One of them is blackholesurfer.com, where I just collect all the information that I've learned about the CMDB over time. It has rules to, well, it has discovery information on there, because not everything you can find on BMC communities can actually be useful. So there's a lot of opinions out there, and I like to be in control of my own information because I need my data to be accurate. So opinions for me don't matter, right? I need facts, something that's been proven in production that really has worked in the past and continues to work. So this is why the Black Hole Surfer was created for the CMDB, and some of the stuff is available publicly, but not everything, right? So we have, I have created some data on there that I only have access to, so that way it's not being shared with everyone. And the other website is hotsky.com, where I have my resume, and the Unix notes, where the password is really just A10, which is Andy 10, who was somebody that I worked with years ago. Then I had good questions, and I created the website for him, and the username and password kind of is matching there. So if you haven't been told about this by now, by me, then there you have it. You can get in there and then get to this data. And I'm only putting it at the end of this video because I know if you make it this far, then you'll have this information. If you haven't made it this far, well, then you probably are not all that into CMDB, and your CMDB administration is going to suffer, because you really have to kind of sort it in your head and keep it running as an AR server would in a server group. So Hope to see you guys next time. Stay free from the coronavirus. I don't have any new information about that other than working from home is definitely safe. Have a nice day and take care.